to Collective Couch Conversations, a candid series about leadership and organizational development. I'm Rebecca Ume-Crook, and I'm here with Grace. We are going to dive into
Cultivating Powerful Partnerships. So, Rebecca, you've been in charge of partnerships, engagement, and management at Metis for 6 years. Such a long time.
Yes.
So I'm very sure you have some nuggets there for us today. So establishing successful partnerships takes a lot of planning, a lot of negotiation, a lot of engagement and management. Spill the beans on what has worked for you.
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
I learned a lot over the years. Made a lot of mistakes. Have some learnings. I would say the biggest shift I've seen in myself that I think has really had ripple effects on the resources we've been able to mobilize is going from really feeling honestly like desperate, like feeling like I was like begging
for money.
Yes, exactly. And that's not, I mean, that feels terrible. I also think moving from a place of like angst to just security and wait a minute, our collective does really amazing work. Our fellows do deserve the support.
Yeah.
We deserve support and resources, and viewing like funders as they're one piece of the puzzle and we're a piece of the puzzle. We need each other to create the worlds that we want to mutually live in. And so seeing our own value, seeing my own value when providing opportunities for funders to support us has been a really big shift. And I think that fundraising can actually be really dehumanizing. And I think there are a lot of structural things that are shifting, thankfully, for the better. But it can feel really awful to hear no. It can feel really awful to be asked questions that you feel like are out of context. And so I think being really rooted in one's own worth and conviction is really helpful. Yeah. I also would say having a community of other founders or people who are fundraising is extremely helpful because I think the more that we talk and support each other, the better things can be. And we should be doing due diligence on the people who provide funding, just as they do due diligence on us. And I think that we can also be able to provide, just be able to shift power dynamics in the way that better serve not only all founders, but particularly local founders.
I love the lessons there.
Yeah.
Like, so far, what I've had is believing in your value and your mission, collaborating with funders, right? And the third thing is?
Community.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I also think around that, I think one of the things that Metis is really poised to do is to support people to move from this mindset of scarcity to abundance. I actually think there's enough money. And the challenges are so big that we're trying to solve. Ensuring that every kid accesses an excellent education is a huge challenge. It's going to take all of us working together. So I think organizations being able to co-apply for grants, especially small organizations to be able to get bigger chunks of money, can be really a good strategy. I think that leaders collaborating again to support each other, to make introductions is really helpful. I don't think, I wrote in the beginning so many cold grant applications. Ask me how much money we got.
How much?
0. Okay? Fundraising is so relational. That's the other point I'll bring up, is that it's really about relationships. People don't just fund great ideas. Great ideas are everywhere. They fund people and organizations and communities they trust. And so trust and relationship, I think, is at the heart of great fundraising. And to that end, I don't want to be too dry, Grace, but I actually do, and we'll link this for folks who are watching, we do have some engagement principles that I've codified over the years because I found them to be pretty helpful. Have you seen them, Grace?
I have.
No, you have. Okay.
I have.
Let me run through them quickly, but you can see the spreadsheet also online, and I hope that you adapt it to your own context and build on it, etc. But there are 6 principles. They're co-create, share bright spots, build intimacy, share transparently, connect regularly, and make people feel valued and seen. And so these principles have really guided how I engage with our funders and partners, specifically those who are giving capital resources. So the first one is co-create. I was given this advice by there's this old adage that one of our board members told me, and it goes like this. If you ask for money, you'll get advice. And if you ask for advice, you'll get
money.
Hey!
Has that worked? Have you implemented this? Has it worked?
Yeah, I wouldn't say just let me ask a question and
boom, there's money.
Dollars in your bank account. No, it's not like that. But I think really investing people and other organizations in our work, having them have proximity to the people that we serve, our fellows. We've invited over the years people to contribute their ideas and expertise to our theory of change, to our fellowship model. They've served on our advisory councils. They've been guest speakers. Co-creating with people builds a sense of ownership. Asking for people's advice, it feels scary at first because you feel should I have it all figured out? Actually, activities like brain trusts really help people feel I can help build this, and I want these folks to be successul. What else do I have besides advice to help make them successful? Maybe I have some resources. So none of these engagement principles are bulletproof, do it and then cha-ching, but this is what I found to be helpful. And it's also, I think every person who's fundraising has to lean into who they are authentically, and at least these principles also helped me feel like I was showing up as a human and as a leader I was proud of, not someone who was just scratching for money. So anyways, co-create. The second one is share the bright spots. So this is sharing the good, whether that's a voice note or an email. I send a monthly-ish investor update email with lots of photos. This could be a candid WhatsApp text with a site visit or some exciting fellow news. So sharing that good, again, is helping to build that relationship and get people excited about our work and help people have Metis top of mind. The third one is build intimacy. So I think not only do we communicate regularly, but I really find that these are people who want to create a better world. And we are people trying to create a better world. We have whole lives in addition to our work lives. And I find allowing myself the permission to just be curious about the whole person on the other side of the Zoom screen, being curious about what brings them to the work, being curious about their families and their lives, and just builds an intimacy. Again, I don't want to sound calculating in this engagement principle, but when I sat and wrote these, I was what do I actually do that feels good to me and yields results? That relational bit feels really important. It just helps build rapport. Three more. The next one is share transparently. So sharing our accounts, sharing how we use the resources, sharing monthly and annual reports, even if they're not asked for, just builds a sense of confidence as well. Sharing our challenges as well as our successes also, I think, builds a sense of confidence and rapport. Two more, connect regularly. So we maintain a regular cadence of communication. So there are things here written, that I do monthly, quarterly, and annually. And I think for me in the beginning, I really didn't like fundraising. So I would do everything else. And then oh my God, when I can, oh my gosh, I have to reach out to these people. We're going to run out of money. It wasn't actually like that, but it kind of felt like that. Now, for me, because it didn't come naturally to me at first, I would calendar it and create this cadence so that I'm being regular and not just forgetting about the people who support our work. And then finally, my last principle would be to make people feel seen and valued and special and appreciated. I do think most people and organizations want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, and will be extremely generous. If we make that feel good, I always say, I'm quoting someone else, but the revolution has to be joyful. And so if we can joyfully celebrate people and their contributions, I think that's also a generative cycle. So those are my six principles and some other things I've thought of. Yeah.
I have a question on building relationships. Yeah. Some of these funders probably are not in the same country as you. Let's say in the US. How do I build that relationship? Should I get on a Skype call before I send a proposal? Should I take
Skype? What year are you in? Okay. She's Grace.
Our Zoom.
Grace is in 1999. Okay.
Our Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the things that have worked for you to?
Great question.
That, yeah.
I think there was a lot of pressure, particularly pre-COVID, to spend a lot of time where the money was in Europe, in the US. And well, again, I think relationships are at the heart of so much, and nothing beats in person. There's a lot that can be done without getting on a plane. So we've done virtual visits. I always try bringing beneficiaries. Our fellows are our biggest ambassadors. So having the people whose lives you are affecting, whether those are kids or teachers or adult leaders in our case, like having them be able to share and testify to the impact of our program. I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but when you see Franco light up, when you see Lillian say, this is how Metis changed my life, like that moves people differently. And so we've done virtual visits where we like transported people here. You could be so creative with like the music, the visuals, to really immerse people in the experience in a really helpful way that doesn't require you to go places. I will say that when I have been in the States trying to take advantage of that and create not just opportunities for me to like sit down and like show you my shiny pitch deck and be like, this is why you should fund Metis, I think that there are other ways to do it that have felt, again, like so much of this is like, I'm realizing even as I talk to you now, doing what feels good to you so that you can stay in the game. And that's going to be unique to, my way might be different than your way, but I really just think that awareness of what actually feels good to me, how do I stay authentic in this, so that I can keep going, because the reality is you're going to meet a lot of people, and for whatever reason, like they're not aligned, whether it's their core priorities, whether it's your geographic area. Just trying to depersonalize the no's, I also think is a really golden nugget. But I'm getting off track here, Grace. What I was going to tell you was that when you are actually in person, not doing a whole like pitch, but really creating an experience that helps immerse funders and potential partners in our work, and really connects to what they care about, I think is really, I've seen that be successful. So for example, this last July, a Metis fellow was also in the States, so we coordinated our trips, and in Boston and New York, we gathered a group of funders, and we got some of our funders to get their friends, right? And so to do some of the heavy lifting for us, because that's one way of support, right? Even if they're not able to support us financially, always ask for other
types of partnerships.
Exactly. Yeah. And some of that is just opening doors. So if someone says no to me, I'm like, great, do you know who other people who might be able and willing and have the capacity to support our work right now? And so we had roundtable events. We centered the whole thing on education as liberation. We had people talk about like what is liberation to them, what enables their liberation, what gets in our way individually and collectively. So it was a conversation that just really tapped into people's heart spaces, I would say, and then gave our fellow then the opportunity to share about her journey, how education has been a huge source of liberation in her own life, and how then Metis has enabled her to create educational opportunities for more people in underserved communities across rural Kenya. So we tied it all together, but it was something that was, again, leveraging our creativity, leveraging our authentic voices, leveraging storytelling. It was, that event I think was really successful, and then you follow up with the pitches and the proposals and all of that. And probably one of the engagement principles I should have included is just, you have to be persistent. You have to follow up. Like sometimes one of our biggest funder right now actually came to our events, and, that's that co-creation principle. Have them come and see and experience. And she gave feedback, some of it pretty critical. And then do whatever you need to do to be resilient, right? That's, again, that community piece. That's that, learning from others, that self-care piece, that you just keep being persistent. And then, 3 years later. So you sometimes have to sow seeds and then wait for the time when you get to harvest them. So
yeah, for sure. What I've heard you say is we need to maybe not get too caught up on the traditional kind of pitching where you have a whole slide deck and you're telling them this is the impact I've created, this is the money I want, but let's also cultivate these relationships and connect with these potential funders. And I love the concept that you've just brought up, other types of partnerships, because I believe that partnerships are not just limited to money. There are other types of partnerships that we can create and leverage on.
Absolutely.
Maybe you could give us 2 partnerships other than funding partnerships that have actually you've leveraged on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just 2. Oh
Just
my gosh.
2.
In the beginning, we had no money, so we were leveraging on all the in-kind partnerships. 2 examples quickly come to mind. One, office space, and secondly, also, venue space. Okay, those are kind of similar. Can I give you one more?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So in the beginning of Metis, we did not have the resources to pay salaries, even myself. So we founded an organization called Engineers Without Borders, and that organization funded 2 full-time employees for Metis. So I think the great thing about our community is we're creative, we're hustlers, and so finding where we all have a role to play, whether you're the one who's like the graphic designer making the logo, or you're a t-shirt printer, or you have space, or you can come be a speaker, or you have a catering business and you want to give us food for some of our events. Like literally anything that an organization, a company, an individual has, if they can connect to our mission and vision and our culture as a community, I think our team can really creatively think about how to create mutually beneficial partnerships that do not only rely on money and funding.
Yeah. So identify the type of partnership that is well aligned to your goals and resources at the same time, right?
Yeah, and I also think that each of us is a Metis ambassador.
Yeah.
And I think I wear many hats in my life. Like Metis hasn't, okay, sometimes Metis is my whole life, but I wouldn't aspire for that for that's a whole other story, I guess, Grace. But that said, I'm always kind of wearing my Metis hat. So when I'm in social situations, or, when you're at church, when you're at a party, when you're at a gathering, whether you're at a conference, just having your feelers out there, being like, how can I support someone else's work? But 2, how might their work and offering support what we're trying to achieve? I always kind of have that, because it's not so much of this is spontaneous too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, those are some great insights. Please make sure that you look at the tools that we've attached. And let us know how your partnership engagement is going.
Amazing.